Human beings operate from one of three behavioral positions. We act in one of three ways. There's only three. The balanced determined self, the higher self obviously, or the pleasing or the selfishly determined selves. You're either or. Pleasing everybody so you don't face rejection. A lot of people do that. If you don't have to face it, you don't have to feel it. Selfish is, I'm going to take that moment away from you. I'm going to take it away so you don't have it. I'll take, and you'll have nothing. So I don't have to feel the rejection of my request that I need from you, and I hope you share with me, or allow me in some other way. In whatever the circumstance, I think you understand what I'm saying. Selfish pleasing, self-protection. They're self-protection behaviors to prevent self from going back into that place where we say to ourselves we're worthless back in childhood. I must be worthless. Nobody's paying attention to me. They reject me. Every kid goes through that. And we've developed low self-worth, and lower self-dominance eventually develops from that. And we, in the now as adults, in our memory retrieval system, in the living computers that our physical bodies are, meaning it's alive, the cells in our body are alive with a thinking process that communicates with our subconscious, and our subconscious communicates with the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, truth, the cell, the heart's thought process, and then cognitively into the subconscious, and the subconscious projects like a movie theater into the frontal lobe the information cognitively understood logically of the experience, you see? And then through intellect and wisdom, we look for a greater knowing, a greater meaning to the experience. Once we sit and think about the emotional impact of the moment later on. Nobody does that in the moment. We just feel it in the moment and then act or react to the emotional response in that experience, in whatever experience. That's the thing with humanity. We react quickly to the potential fear of loss, where it erases our ability to look into the greater knowing, the greater meaning of what's going on in our experience. So if we're afraid, we don't do that. We don't access the spiritual elements, the knowledge-giving, knowledge-searching elements of intellect and wisdom. Intellect cognitively understands the logic, seeks to understand what logic is of truth. Wisdom emotionally, with empathy, seeks to understand the meaning behind truth, movements, understanding, intuition, where we feel that emotionally, and then wisdom of our emotional responses throughout life, it gives us a knowing of human spirit, and then we can share that with one another. But if we're too afraid to do that because of the rejection model of parenting, we're either selfish or pleasing, and those are lower self-dominance behaviors, and keeping you stuck, not being able to succeed, not being happy, joy. All this was me, and I can see it in others. I work with people, so I know this about you. If you're looking, it's not that you're sad or angry all the time, but you know you could feel better, you see? And there's others like me who went to absolute spiritual death and devastation. And it'll help both of you. That's what the whole purpose of the study group was all about, was to first identify everything that is higher and lower self, internally, where they come from and what influences it. And the easiest way to explain what influences it is to say higher and lower self, because what influences a person in the influences of good and evil, in silence's voice, good, in ego's voice that we hear in our own voices, evil, that seeks, it doesn't sound like evil, it sounds like fun. Our silence kicks in and says, hey, wait a sec, slow down. and become balanced before you're too selfish or too pleasing. The feedback formula. Feedback formula is self-expression practice, and it's mechanical and feels mechanical at first when dealing with something emotional. Until we get used to it and start understanding why it's there and why we're using it, because the cognitive understanding is different from the emotional one once you start using it. You see, that's why it's important to use the mechanical process first to discover that, so you can grow from that. That's important. And if you don't follow these tiny things, which seem so irrelevant, you're going to miss stuff. If you follow them step by step, you'll learn about yourself. And the only reason that you stop learning about yourself is because you gave up for some reason looking at yourself. Most times it's because it's intolerable for some people. It's really fucking hard to. But it gets easier once you do it enough times. It's like programming, like walking, riding a bike, writing. Eventually we become programmed, because that's the way the living computer works, to return to and do the same thing over and over again. So we know how to write each time we need to write something. You see? But when we're dealing with the emotional response and the rejection model of parenting, and an influence that exploits that, rapes, and emotionally does to us what a pedophile does to a child before he sexually assaults him. Emotional deception of human trust. Telling us that we're going to get our emotional needs met if we do this, that, and the other thing, as long as we don't tell the truth about our emotional selves. And because we can't do that, we can't tell simple truths, because we're programmed to communicate and relate to with lying, the influence of the lower self-dominance. You see, the influence though is feminine. It's the dark feminine, because it's first fearful when we think about self-expression. So fear comes in and says, don't. Too afraid. Unresolved pain kicks in. Now we're afraid of feeling that in the now with you. I mean, between us. We're both like this. This is how I'm feeling when I talk to you. I'm too afraid to be me, because I'm so locked into my early childhood memories of feeling rejected, neglected, and tossed out like yesterday's fucking trash, like I was nothing. Loving parents or not, when a child feels rejected, I don't care what language they say it in, they say exactly that. So did you. When you were young, you did it differently, you talked to yourself differently, but you said that exact same thing that I just said now. You just say, fuck, I'm trash, I'm worthless, and then we stand and we say, fuck that. Take our stands. It's not taking a stand. It's committing with anger to the lie and feeling safe with the lie. That's how the trick, there's some kind of trick in your Bibles, the way it's a lower self-dominance influenced by an intelligent animal. It's not like on TV, buddy. Found a way to hack into electromagnetic pulse in the earth that connects with our hearts, that feeds us through the seed and hearts, that hijacks the original. You see, it's the original is the planets for some reason. Our influences themselves, and I don't really understand that part. But inside the earth is wisdom. The element of our wisdom, our intellect and logic. And because wisdom brought truth with her, it's truth and wisdom, truth, emotional response, and wisdom now. It's complicated, and I don't understand, I could never understand that. But anyway, wisdom in the sun is our logic. It has something to do with the astrological shit too. Also, I don't know. But in the sun, is the transmitted signal of our logic that our brains pick up, the right side of the brain picks up, that speaks with the mind's eye. The ego's voice does it from within. That influence does it from within because of the hijacked seed, the hijacked electromagnetic pulse, and speaks that way. Our radio-like antennas, the brain, the brain, I don't know if it's just the right side, but it is the right side that we get our logic from to try and understand our emotional selves, and then try to figure out what the fuck is going on through this manipulation influence. Also, and it's confusing, it turns all people into spiritual death, or emotional depression that leads to emotional death, that results in a spiritual death. Because once we're emotionally deadened, we're projecting that spirit of the emotional death. The feedback formula is, I feel when you, as the result of, I need this from you. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So if you said something disrespectful to me, if we were in a relationship, doesn't matter what kind, friendship, heavy duty one, it doesn't matter. The guy at the fucking store, it doesn't matter. It's not about performing to relate to somebody else. It's about performing to relate to yourself and then bring that into your relationships. That's what this is. That's what personal development is. And we get sidetracked when somebody else judges our performance. So fuck judgment and fuck everything. Just focus on that and be healthy. Focus on making sure it's the higher self dominating the lower self. Within. Okay, so if we're relating to each other and you say something disrespectful and that hurts in some way or makes me angry, but first it's hurt and then anger, I stop myself from being angry and I self-express. I feel disrespected when you say this to me. That's the behavior. And then I describe the behavior. As the result, I need this from you. And I describe what I need. In the New Start, Saskatchewan New Start Life Skills model of coaching, it says as a requirement, this is what I expect from you. Don't expect. If you expect, it's control. When there's control, it sets off the animal instinct, lower self-dominance to self-protect in the other person, and it develops sight. You can't see no more. Stop trying to control. Just accept, even when others are trying to, another person is trying to control you in a conflicting relationship. Walk away. Walk the fuck away from that, buddy. I swear to you, you'll find peace. If you just walk away, don't give in. Reaction to the lower self-dominance of anger. And calculate the hurts thought with the angry person's wisdom. That's where we change feminine influences and go for the lower self-dominance and become it. That's why it's not the devil's fault, and that's why it's not God's fault. It's the self who does with the influence what the self does. Life is offered through God, so we live that life. We're changed and altered to manipulate horrible things, and it's still up to us to react differently to that, because we have a seed in us, and they want us to have apprenticeship papers. So we learn. Earning the apprenticeship papers is learning how to react differently to our emotions. And when it's self-destructive or automatic fear and we react, that's not going to get us in, because it's darkness inside heart's thought. God is not going to let darkness infect his perfect realm of light. That's why there's an education system set up different levels of heaven from this first one. This first one is from where white guys, not Indians, not those who have already arrived. The Indians that are on the earth now are white fucks like me who didn't learn the first time and not being punished but learning the hard way, because that's the education system, who are now Indians themselves and experiencing what they themselves as white guys inflicted on Indians in that other lifetime. That's the education system. We're in the last life cycle on this planet Earth. This planet Earth was created by an incomplete God. It's going away soon. You know why? Because God and incomplete God both together say it's going away. That was a whole fucked up thing that they did, that they have to correct, and they're going to. And before they do, before they snap their spiritual fingers and say, okay, be gone, they're giving us a chance to earn our apprenticeship papers. The opposite of hate. That's what we're programmed with. We're not programmed to hate Indians or black people. We're programmed to hate the opposite of hate. It is a fucked up thing, buddy. It is so manipulative. And trying to figure it out, I can't figure it out. I understand it because I was told it. And I understand how it does it inside, you know, that heart's thought thing. I could never describe it. And thank God that there's no need for that. Because once you apply yourself to the self-actualization meditations, then all that shit disappears. It's gone. There's no more ego's voice. There's no more unresolved pain. There's the memory of it, but without the impact of the unresolved pain, you see? That agonizing, fucked up, gross shit that we feel, not about ourselves, but that's the feeling in the heart, and then that sinks into self, and seeps into self, and then we start believing that that is self, and it's not. And people think that that we hate ourselves, and we don't. We hate the way we feel. People kill themselves over that, thinking they hate themselves, and they don't hate themselves. If they were aware of the seed and the love that's there, which you do become aware of, you become aware of so many things. You get to communicate and understand the communication of silence again. I hope you see that as being important. And then as the result, this is what I need. So if you're in a tight relationship, like with a lifetime partner thing, and you request that your need be met, most people just demand it, selfishly determined. But the balanced determined self will request it and hope for it, but when it doesn't come, allow the feeling and not react to the anger. Okay, so when you succeed in your self-actualized meditations, there's no more anger, automatic response to that anger. That's gone also. It doesn't ignite. It doesn't also ignite the chemicals that ignite all the, like it's a chain reaction chemical thing also that takes the person. Like I said, living computer. It gives commands to other departments of knowing, where other things kick in and start controlling our conscious awareness, and we go down a tunnel vision behavior. But anyway, don't control, just request that it gets met. A person who wants to be in a relationship with you will want to help meet your need. If they don't, or if it's half and half, or 3/4 and 1/4, do more meditations. You'll start developing a self-worth that will never allow you such a relationship again to be disrespected like that.